Hello everybody. Today we are going to do a guided movement practice together, and today's inspiration was rehabilitating muscles that are tight after a long shift standing or maybe a long run, the hips, the back, and then just trying to facilitate our abdominals to better hold us up. So you can expect some foam rolling, some passive active stretching, and then we're going to end with an animal flow together. So let's jump right in. All the equipment you need is a foam roller or some sort of massage modality that you like. You can take a Theragun if you don't have one of these. I know those are really popular. We're going to start with the calves, we'll do the quads, and then a muscle on the back side of the trunk called the Quadratus lumborum. Okay, so we're gonna take first the foam roller out in front of us, and so we're gonna have one foot, or if it's pretty spicy, you can do both feet at the same time. But one foot here is gonna be in, you want this foam roller kind of like in the middle of your calf, and you're gonna put the other side on top of it. Now, if you just wanna roll kind of side to side and feel maybe some guitar strings, something that's really string-like, and you roll over it and it's like, ooh, yeah, that doesn't feel too good. That is what points you want to hit and hold on, and then you can do some active motion of your calf here, move your foot up and down. You can pop up and roll over that spot. Or you can find that spot and kind of spin to wind up that tissue. Couple options there. Let's switch to our other side. Again, foam roller is in the middle of the calf. Other side is going over top, and we're just finding that spot. For me, it's more towards the outside of my calf, and then I'm gonna pop up, and this side is a little bit more tender, so I'm not gonna roll. I am just going to activate my calf. Now, two rules here, two rules to help you follow. You gotta be able to activate that muscle, and you gotta be able to take a breath when you're doing this stuff. I'm stealing that straight from Kelly Starrett. If you're unfamiliar with his content, go check him out. Now, feel free to spend as much time foam rolling as you'd like, but we're gonna transition now to the quad. So we're gonna turn our foam roller, and I'm going to be in kind of like a Spider-Man position. One thigh is gonna be up high, off to the side of the foam roller, and another one is going to be on top. You can start all the way at the insertion of the hip flexor and roll down towards the kneecap. I like the leg out to the side because it doesn't put quite so much pressure on this quad. This muscle we use a lot, and there are oftentimes a lot of tight pieces through there. Now again, you can find that spot, squeeze and straighten that muscle. You can internally, externally rotate that hip to try and find that spot that's really quite tender, and then you can also roll over the top of it, of course. Let's switch sides. The middle of my knee is down on the opposite side. So if you're wondering what part of my leg is contacting the floor, it's the instep of my foot and the middle of my knee. Squeezing and straightening, trying to fire that quad muscle. The next muscle group we're going to focus on is in the back of the low back. So we're going to put the foam roller behind us, and we're going to kind of be on the side of our body, Back elbow is going to be on the far side, on the ground, just so we're not fulcruming ourselves over the foam roller too much. And I just want you to kind of take your knees one side or the other, so you find kind of that hard muscle, that tight muscle back there in sort of the flank region of your back. And then we can just do some side bends away from that side. Let's do 2 more and then we'll switch sides. Again, knees to the side, find that muscle and kind of be active with it. The next thing we are going to do is some stretching. We're going to do 2 sets here. The first set is going to be a passive stretch. We're going to hold for 30 seconds. The second set is going to be an active stretch. We're going to find maybe a tight spot and activate into it, activate away from it, and you'll know what I mean here in a second. Feel free to take whatever time you want to foam roll and jump back in if you need. Our first stretch position is going to be the pigeon, and I am going to actually utilize my foam roller to help me because I'm quite tight in this position. So one leg is going to be out in front of us. The other leg is going to be straight behind us. And again, I am just sitting on my foam roller, get propped up. If you have yoga blocks, you can utilize those as well. And we're just going to stretch the outside of the hip here. Now, if you are a yogi out there and you have this position mastered, you can jump in to this next phase and kind of prop up and activate your external rotators out into the ground. We're switching sides. On the other side now. And you'll see what I mean about the activation here in a second. I like to activate during my stretching sessions. I think it helps you truly own and maintain that range of motion. It's not just getting in the position. We want to be able to move through it, and we'll see that as well later. So our pigeon position, we can kind of enter into from maybe a lunge, and then we're going to drop that knee out to the side. And here we're activating all along, trying to keep that hip on the backside. And my hands down just to take a little bit of that load off. We can come back in and go back out. Pushing the outside of that foot out into the floor all the time. Let's go ahead and switch sides. Lunge, knee comes out, pushing that foot out to the ground. Hands on the ground to help you support your body, trying to own that range of motion. Our next position is going to be the figure 4. You can take this in a lot of different positions. I'm going to be sitting, but if you've never done the figure 4 before, we've got one leg draped over the other knee, creating that 4. So I'm going to take one foot, prop it up over the other knee, and we're just static stretching here. I think mobility is becoming more and more into the mainstream. For a long time, we were just focusing on cardio and strength training, and the pendulum is swinging back kind of to be more balanced. Let's go ahead and switch. And I think that's a good thing. Mobility is certainly an important thing. As we age, our skin, our ligaments, our tissues, they all become stiffer. And if we don't move through these positions, we won't be able to maintain that mobility. All right, going back to our first leg, and now I want you to activate into your other leg. Try and bring your knee towards you. You can angle your whole lower body one direction as well. In effect, kind of massaging the glute onto the ground. And then we're going to switch sides. Activate heel into knee, bring your knee towards you, and we're just moving through this, whatever feels good to you, whatever feels like a good, productive stretch, that's what we're going for. Our next position is going to be a lateral lunge. We'll do that in a few seconds here. All right, we're coming on up to a lateral lunge. So I'm actually going to take a position that I can do both sides in at once. So my feet are kind of pointed out at a 45-degree angle. Feet are wider than shoulder width. And we're just gonna bend the knee of one side until we get a good stretch on the inside of the thigh on the straight leg. You can shift your weight forward onto the front toe. You can shift your weight back and kind of hip hinge. This is just gonna change where you feel the stretch. The more forward you are, the more forward your stretch is gonna be. The more back you are, the more towards the hamstring you're gonna get. It's just a bias between the quad, the adductor, and the hamstring. We're switching sides. All of these muscles have fascial connections between each other, and they can become tight, and that's why we kind of want to explore the forward, the middle, and the back, and find what is the most tight, and just hang out there for a little bit. There's no perfect or exact way to do a stretch. It's just whatever feels the tightest for you that day. Okay, now we're going to kind of pull the straight leg foot and try and sweep it underneath us. We're keeping this muscle activated. And we can still do that forward, backward motion, but now that leg is active and strong. Couple seconds left. And then we're switching. Trying to sweep that leg underneath. Now another thing you can do, instead of shifting your weight on the leg that is bent, you can internally rotate on the straight leg or externally rotate on the straight leg and just move and pivot around and see if you can get a stretch in a little bit different position. Our last kind of stretch position is going to be a forward fold, but we're going to bias it towards one side. So one leg is going to be in front of the other. Kind of pop your hip back to one side, and we're trying to get at that QL that we hit earlier. You can reach towards the opposite foot. Kind of deepen that stretch, get into the lat, get into the QL a little bit. A few more seconds and then we'll switch sides. All right, other legs coming forward, other legs coming back. And we're kind of reaching to find that stretch. You might feel it in the glute. You might feel it in the hamstring. I want you to make sure that you find a stretch on the outside of the trunk. A few more seconds, and then we're going to switch back to our first leg. All right, switching back, and now I want you to really reach forward and actively keep your arm going overhead. Really lengthen through the side body, really lengthen through the posterior lateral side where that QL is. You can twist, feel around on the ground. Let's switch. Play around with that twisting a little bit on this side. Really turn into it and turn away. You might find that one side is less or more tight, and things may vary day to day. That's completely normal. All right, hopefully you are feeling a little more stretched out, a little more mobile. The last thing we're gonna do is kind of string all of these things that we've done so far together to create a bit of a flow. Now I find that some of our traditional vinyasa flows, they're great, but they just get old for me. So I like to mix it up, and I call this animal flow. So we can take positions, we can take movements from animals, and kind of integrate them and move through them in order to make this a little more exciting. So follow along with me. I'll call out what positions, what movements we're going to do. The next thing we're going to do is find ourselves back in that runner's lunge that we took in the active phase of the pigeon. And I want you to think about first keeping your glute on the back leg really active. And that's going to create a lot of tightness in the front of your hip flexor if you're like me and you're tight. And then we're just going to kind of pulse through it, kind of come down and lunge into it. Keep that glute active all the way through. See if you can get that back of the knee down. Get your hands to the floor, and let's do some rotations. 3 on each side. Keeping that glute active. Inspired by yoga, but not traditional. Switch legs. Find yourself in that runner's lunge again. Glute on the back leg is turned on, and we're lunging down, getting big stretch through the front of the quad, hip flexor. One more, and then hands come down, rotate up. We're going to switch legs after 3 rotations. And then keeping with that rotation theme, we're going to do some hip internal and external rotation on that front leg. So front knee is going to come in for internal rotation, out for external rotation. Feel free to put a hand down for balance. If that is too difficult for you, that is fine. Support yourself however you need. 1 more each, and then we're going to switch sides. Okay, switch into the other leg. Runner's lunge with hip internal and external rotation. I'm literally coming up on the inside and outside of my foot and trying to keep muscles activated on both sides of the hip. Okay, One more each, and then we're switching to a lateral lunge. So bringing our feet to the same angle, and then we're going to be lateral lunging side to side. Drive that foot down into the floor. And then on the opposite side, heel comes up, hamstring curl. Heel, drive that heel down into the floor to pull you over to the other side. And same thing, heel, hamstring curl to pull you to the other side. Hamstring, hamstring, hamstring. If you fall out of the position, that's okay. Regain your balance, jump right back in. We'll do one more each side. Pull your hamstring over. Last thing here, we're gonna move our hands towards the floor and we're just gonna walk them forward, walk them around. Try and keep your legs relatively straight here. And we're just walking our hands forward to stretch the back, to stretch the lats. We're gonna take next a plank. A plank movement here. And we're gonna shift side to side. Being an active plank, fingertips active, shoulders active. Push your body away from the floor. And just exploring different weight shifts. The last few movements are inspired by some animals. The next movement we're gonna do is the frog. So walk your feet towards your hands. They're gonna be in this kind of crouched position. And then you're gonna walk your hands around the back to end up in the crab position. And then you're gonna walk your feet forward to get back to the frog position. There's no right or wrong way to do this, guys. If you need to move your feet, put your bottom down, the more you explore these movements, the easier it is to shift and get from one position to the other. And that, everybody, is the end of our animal flow. Thank you very much today for sharing some time with me. Hopefully you got a little bit out of our movement practice. Hopefully you're feeling more flexible, more ready for whatever you have going on today. Please feel free to like and subscribe to the video and stay tuned for more movement practices.